Back in the days of the renowned social media hater, Bernie Ecclestone, Martin Brundle was wheeled out to lead the chorus of disrespectful criticism of Lewis Hamilton's use of social media. Ironically, now that renowned social media lover, Liberty Media, is attempting to drive F1's greatest of all times and leading social media user out of the sport, Martin Brundle was again wheeled out to lead the chorus of those who represented that F1 was within its rights to engineer the audacious robbery of Sir Lewis's record-breaking 8th title. Following the sacking of the thief, Martin Brundle was again wheeled out, this time to lead the chorus of those saying that the stolen title can and must not be returned to the rightful owner. The reason why Gopher is the go-to person for those seeking to put the boot into Sir Lewis is a topic for another day. Our focus today is on the social media-loving Liberty Media, who are so desperate to undermine Sir Lewis that they faked a report to smear the most successful driver on track and on social media. Our regular viewers and subscribers will be aware that over a series of videos, we have established that John Malone of Liberty Media and his cronies have been trying to dethrone or expel Sir Lewis Hamilton from F1 so that they can profit from making F1 more attractive to white supremacists. We have since become aware that there are those who view this as a pure business strategy rather than racism. This is because the various regulatory and criminal investigation agencies have to date turned a blind eye to this obvious case of racism, but everyone should remember that there was once a time when sexual harassment and abuse in the workplace was tolerated. In this video, we will present evidence that several claims in the 2021 F1 Global Survey report, including the one that Max Verstappen has overtaken Sir Lewis in popularity, are false and contrived. Undoubtedly, these fake results will resonate well within the white supremacy echo chambers that Liberty Media knows only too well and is targeting. The faking of some of the results of the global survey heightens our suspicions that F1 have been manipulating the result of its Driver of the Day voting, which routinely degrades Hamilton's performance. They may have been getting away with faking the Driver of the Day poll, because this was the only measure of popularity available during a race, but unfortunately for them, there are multiple polls, from credible third parties, to show that the global survey results have been faked. The fake report produced an array of fake or contrived conclusions, but we will limit ourselves to a handful for illustration purposes. This fake report, which was purportedly created from responses collected during the months of September and October 2021, represented that Max Verstappen was the most popular driver, with 14.4% of the votes. Lando Norris was second with 13.7% of the votes, and Lewis Hamilton came third with an undeclared percentage of votes. Lack of transparency is a significant red flag, indicating manipulation. The fact that Hamilton, who was dethroned, was the only named driver whose votes weren't declared, suggests that the results were manipulated. More red flags were raised by the fact that we have been unable to find any other publicly available reports or publications that support the F1 survey's findings. Instead, all available reports contradict the survey. Social media following is an established measure of popularity, and the medium is of particular interest to Liberty Media and F1. Ironically, Hamilton was the first driver to embrace social media, something for which he was sharply criticized and pilloried at that time, as advised earlier. Media, pundits, fans and members of the public routinely lined up to abuse or criticize Sir Lewis for his social media, which was considered not normal behavior for an F1 driver. A vicious campaign, which began during the Bernie years and carries on to date.
But I can't imagine Mercedes themselves will be very happy about what's happened. And, you know, what he was doing in that press conference on Thursday was taking pictures of himself and another driver, Carlos Sainz, and posting them on Snapchat, one of the social media outlets he uses, with bunny ears and bunny faces on them. He thought that was very funny. I'm sure not everybody else did. It didn't look like Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen on either side of him thought it was very funny themselves. But again, that's Lewis. He does things, he's a law unto himself. He's a somewhat mercurial character. And we've come to expect, you know, behavior that isn't normal for a Formula One driver. That in many ways is a good thing. In some people's opinion, what he did on Thursday was a bad thing, but it's not for me personally to say.
Critically, in the period leading up to the F1 survey and afterwards, Lewis Hamilton was the most popular driver on social media by a wide margin, and continues to grow in popularity by more than any other driver. The gap between Hamilton and the other drivers was so wide as to raise immediate red flags about the credibility of any online survey which puts him third. For example, in the lead up to the survey, Hamilton had 23.1 million followers on Instagram, while his nearest challenger, Verstappen, had 5.4 million. In 2019, Lewis had 12.5 million followers while Max had 2.5 million. The Instagram narrative is repeated across all the main social media platforms, as evidenced by a report from another independent source, which aggregated all the four main social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Hamilton is ranked first across each platform and overall. Verstappen is ranked second on Instagram, fifth on Twitter and second overall. With such a wide gap between Hamilton and his nearest challenger, it is mathematically impossible and statistically improbable that a Lewis Hamilton, who had a significantly larger fan base and was growing his followers in greater numbers, would come third in a randomly sampled online poll. The poll sample would have to be heavily skewed, or the results faked outright, to produce such outcomes. There are many other red flags raised by the false narratives contained in the survey. The report's assertion that Max is more popular than Lewis sits oddly with its claim that Twitter and Instagram are the most used social media platforms amongst 16 to 24-year-old respondents. This claim is statistically improbable, given that Lewis is the most popular on the named platforms, by a wide margin, and furthermore, Max comes in second on Instagram and fifth on Twitter. Suspiciously, the report does not explain or comment on the reversal of fortune between Lewis and Max amongst the 16 to 24-year-old age group and the 45-plus age group as recorded by the 2017 and 2021 surveys. The report is so contrived and slapdash that even the language raises questions about its credibility and the competence of the author. For example, the claim that Max Verstappen is the fans' overall number one driver and dominates amongst fans ages 25 to 34 is undermined by the quote, Max popular within the 25 to 45 age range. In the first instance, the quote uses a different age range to its predecessor, but critically, the latter quote is missing a determiner or quantifier, like more or less, which is central to statistics. The fact that Max is popular within an age range does not mean that he is more or less popular than Lewis in that age range. This loose wording, which is repeated copiously during the report, raises questions about the author's competence and suggests that the results have been manipulated to reach a predetermined conclusion. Further damning evidence of fakery can be found from reviewing the previous F1 report in 2017. The 2017 survey found that Lewis Hamilton's popularity had doubled since 2015, and he commanded a level of global fan support not seen since that enjoyed by the great Michael Schumacher. All the other reports and social media platforms show that Hamilton's popularity, which dwarfs that of the other drivers, has been growing exponentially. However, without any explanation, the 2021 survey suggests that Verstappen and Norris have come up out of the blue to surpass Hamilton in popularity. In conclusion, one would ordinarily expect a dominant champion on track, and on social media, who transcends the sport, to be a poster boy for F1 and Liberty Media. Instead, they have been caught out on several occasions attempting to undermine Sir Lewis, at every opportunity and at any cost, simply because they wish to whitewash the sport, to attract more racist viewers.